Hello everybody, it's Mr. Desprosium again. This episode we're going to be discussing power weapons and how they affect the game and what 343 changed about power weapons that made a huge impact on Halo 4, not for the good. Also, we're going to talk a little about armor abilities and tactical package and support upgrades, which are basically perks. We're going to talk about those, but spoiler, I like those in the game, but I'll discuss why they were good and why they worked and basically how to keep them safe, what not to do in future games. So, power weapons follow some general rules no matter what game you're playing. Everyone in the gaming industry understands that power weapons do these certain things. They're spawned in on the map. They're not given to the player at time of spawn. They have to be found. And that they are powerful. They are power weapons. Meaning that they are intended to give the player who has acquired these weapons some easy kills. So how do you balance something like that? How do you balance a weapon that's supposed to give you easy kills? The answer is, you don't. You don't balance the weapon. Instead, you create an environment where it is difficult to acquire that weapon, where acquiring that weapon meant you had to fight your way to the weapon and earn it, and then you could use it to slaughter your enemies. Now, don't get me wrong, I do understand the fact that power weapons could be too powerful. If the rocket launcher had a blast radius of half the map and didn't kill friendly targets, that would be unbalanced. If there was an auto-aiming sniper rifle that got one-shot kills, that would be imbalanced. But the point is that they're supposed to be easy kill weapons that are rewards for the risk you took when you assaulted that particular part of the map that weapon spawned in. It's also important to note just how big of a role power weapons play in games like Halo. They're not just some random Easter egg for the player to come across and go, "Ooh, I get some kills today." They drove matches. Remember the pit? Remember the pit in Halo 3? Well, they brought it back in Halo 4, and they kept it relatively unchanged. They added a little grav lift where the sword was. It didn't really change much, but I want to show you a clip.
Eliminate the enemy team. Gain the lead.
So basically that was badass. What happened was me and that enemy player met exactly the same time near rockets because we knew that that's where rockets were going to be. It was a driving point of that map to get to the rockets, to get to the sniper, to get to the sword. And fighting over control of those weapons, or at the very least where they spawn, is referred to as map control. So the basic flow of a match becomes gain the power weapon, use it to get a little bit ahead, and then return to normal fighting while your power weapons are respawning. Right? This is simple. We all know this. We all have done it. You use the brute shot on turf, and it gets used up, and you got a couple of kills from it. You go back to where the warthog spawns, start BRing people down, maybe grab sniper up there. But as soon as brute shot's up again, you pick it up again, and you get some more kills. As long as you control that little area of the map, you're gonna get brute shot every time. And brute shot in Halo 2 was a fantastic weapon. But I digress. Where the hell am I going with this? How does this apply to Halo 4, and why is Halo 4 any different? Infinity. Fuck Infinity. It has single-handedly destroyed Halo 4 multiplayer. But how, you might ask? How, Mr. Desprosium? How is it possible that a simple gameplay mechanic, a slight change of the rules, a slight change in the way Halo works, how could that ruin the entirety of Halo 4's multiplayer? Let me show you with a simple clip. Ah, sweet, I think rockets are back up. Let me go get them real quick. Ah! Fuck! So, for those of you who haven't played Halo 4, that was the incineration cannon. And for those of you who have played the pit and Halo 4, you might say to yourself, wait a minute, the incineration cannon doesn't spawn on the pit. That's because it fucking doesn't. That gentleman right there with the incineration cannon and rocket hull, he fucking got that from an Ordnance drop. And again, just in case some people who don't play Halo 4 are watching this, an Ordnance drop is 343's attempt at addressing the seemingly successful tool that Call of Duty uses, known as kill streaks. You kill a bunch of players and you get something cool. Woo! But this idea that 343 adopted from Call of Duty, it fucks everything up. It fucks everything up. It takes everything that Halo had that made it unique, and it fucked it up. It completely fucked it up. When I read about it, I thought to myself, no, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way that they're going to go through with this. And they did. They did. So just give me a second. Let me explain what this fucks up, because it fucks up two things. So the first thing is map control. Why would you bother controlling the map? Why would you control a portion of the map if you could just get an incineration cannon from getting a couple double kills? Why would you bother? Why wouldn't you just be running around mindlessly like you were playing Call of Duty, looking for players to lol, stab in the back, lol, shoot in the face? Because if you do that enough, you're gonna get a binary rifle, a one-shot, unlimited range weapon like the binary rifle. And number two, it fucks new players right in the ass. Let's put a bunch of players ranging from mediocre to pretty good in a match of 16 players. In any game, in either game, Halo 4 or Call of Duty. So what happens? Let's see here. So the good players start absolutely destroying the bad players, and the good players, already doing well, are then given the gift from the gods, you know, Trinity, fucking whatever, Trinity Ward, fucking, I don't care. They get an airstrike, and they're like, oh, what's this? And they drop bombs on part of the map, and they get like 6 more kills, and then I don't know, they're like, oh wow, that was pretty cool. So they just keep getting a few more kills off these players who aren't as good, and then they get a helicopter. They get a fucking helicopter that automatically flies around the map and just guns down these poor players who aren't quite as good as these other players that they were matched up against. That always pissed me off about Call of Duty. They were rewarding the better players with ways to kill the lesser players even easier. And meanwhile, the bad players got nothing. They just continued to get shit on until the match was over. What fun is that for the bad players? It's no. And then you know, Halo 4 gets announced, and I'm like, oh, this looks pretty good. Pretty impressive considering it's still on the Xbox 360. Oh, what's this Ordnance drop? Holy shit, it's a meter. I swear to God, if it's a kill meter, it's not a kill meter, but oh, okay. So you get points during the match, and what do you get? Oh, you can get damage boost. You can get rockets. You can get the fucking sticky detonator. Great. Now, don't get me wrong. Good players should be rewarded with the ability to kill players. That is their own reward. They're good, so they get to kill, you know, lesser players if they're matched up against them. But there's no room in a competitive game for something that just gives free kills. There's no room for that. That is a balancing issue. That is the rocket launcher that affects half the map but kills none of the players. Or none of the friendly players. That is the sniper rifle with unlimited ammo and perfect automatic aim. That is what that is. Those are Call of Duty kill streaks in a nutshell. Moving back to Halo 4, just so we're all clear, the issue is not power weapons. It is how they're delivered to the player. And you know, come to think of it, that is what makes Halo more appealing than Call of Duty to me. All you generally do in Call of Duty is you move around the map looking for people to shoot. You're not controlling any portion of the map. You don't have a side of the map to your team. You don't own any portion of the map. You're just running around in a big circle around the outside of the map if you're smart to stay away from, you know, multiple line of sight issues. You find players to shoot, stab in the back, and you walk past a door and you'll get shot by someone else who was behind you. Now, sure, in Halo there were maps that were quite like that, Midship being the one that I'm thinking of right now, But it was a fun map, and the important thing was that this was a flavor of Halo. If you wanted some quick action, some 4v4 CTF, maybe some 16-player team deathmatch on midship, then yeah, you could join midship, and it's just fun. But think of the maps like Relic and, oh, I don't know, Valhalla. Those maps, huge maps with lots of diversity. And I say huge, not necessarily in scale, but in choices that you have. But I'm getting sidetracked, so let me recap. Power weapons are good. Power weapons are really good in Halo. They give the players something more to do than just kill each other mindlessly. It invokes a sense of map control. The players want to control the portions of the map where these power weapons spawn because they're going to give them an ability to get some easier kills, not free kills. Power weapons that give free kills have no place in competitive games. And when you start spawning power weapons randomly on the map, let alone giving them to players for their score streaks or whatever you want to call it in Halo 4, it starts really watering down the experience that is Halo multiplayer. And by that, I mean you are taking away map control, or at least the necessity of it. Whew! Alright, so that's enough talking about map control and power weapons. Let's move on to tactical packages and support upgrades. Basically, these are perks. If you've been paying attention to Call of Duty or anything in the modern FPS craze, perks are just little specifications you can give your character that give you an edge and are usually specializations, so they're not usually just 10% more damage or 10% more health. They're generally things like you get an extra grenade or you take less damage from this specific damage type. And Halo 4 did a really, really good job of doing perks right. In my opinion, perks should be just noticeable for the player who has them to say, oh, this is working for me. Or at least to say, this is how my Spartan should be, this is how I wanted my Spartan to act, so I feel a little bit unique. And you can tell when a game has done perks wrong when you fight against an enemy player, and within that single engagement, you can tell what perk that player has. And I hate to keep going back to Call of Duty, but the latest Call of Duty title, Ghosts, has really fucked up perks. Just an example of two of the perks from Call of Duty Ghosts. One of them, Steady Aim, increases hipfire accuracy by 30%. 30%! That's massive. Of course you're going to know when someone's using that. They're able to sidestep you moving 100% of speed because they're not aiming down sights, and just spamming the trigger, and they're going to land 30% more shots than you are. And then the other one I want to mention is called Ping. P-I-N-G. It reads, after killing an enemy, this perk activates a sonar ping that reveals other nearby enemies. Can you fucking imagine dealing with that in a game like Halo 3? Every time you kill an enemy player, other nearby players just show up on your motion tracker, regardless of if they're moving or not? But this is something that I give 343i a lot of credit. I applaud them for their idea of perks in Halo 4. Just to give a few examples, I don't feel like going through all of them, but one that I'm looking at right now is shielding. It's read as faster armor shield regeneration. And all that means is after you take some damage, it doesn't increase the speed in which your shields begin to recharge. The cooldown for shield recharge regeneration is unaffected. What is changed is how quickly your shields recharge once the cooldown has been met. Which means in a 1v1 engagement, you're not going to know that the enemy player has shielding upgrade. You're not going to know, because it only takes effect after the fight is over. So virtually the only player that this affects is the player that's using shielding. Other players have no idea that this guy's shield regenerated a second or two faster than the norm. They have no idea. And enemy players don't notice this during a 1v1 engagement, because it has no effect during combat. And the other perk that I'd like to bring up is awareness. It allows you to see your motion tracker even if you're scoped in with one of the precision weapons. This perk is great for all the same reasons shielding is great. Enemy players are barely ever going to notice when you're using this because they don't actually know when you're scoped or not. But at the same time, this perk has a lot of value for someone who likes to snipe a lot. Which means, once again, 343i gave their players a chance to make themselves feel unique without really dampening other people's experience when playing multiplayer. But, to be fair, 343i did have a few perks that were questionable. The one that sticks out the most to me is one that's called Stability. It provides steadier aiming while be struck by incoming fire. Basically, you don't flinch as much when you get shot. It's kind of funny because there's a website called GameZone.com that did a review on Halo 4 before it came out. And they did a list of all the perks, and here's what they said about stability. They said, there's nothing more annoying than losing a shot-for-shot DMR battle because your opponent keeps knocking your aim away from their head. Stability helps prevent this. So basically what they're saying is, hey, remember in Halo 3 when you used to lose to better players in 1v1 BR fights? Use this perk to even the playing field. But all in all, 343i did a great job with perks, so all I can really do is suggest things that they don't do in the next game. So, number 1, don't let perks give players the edge. By that I mean perks should be hardly noticeable to enemy players. A good way to do this is to have perks merely affect out-of-combat situations like faster shield regeneration or more ammo. Number 2 would be don't detract from core gameplay elements for the sake of perks. For example, if you created a perk that would hide you from enemy player motion trackers, you're completely defeating the purpose of one of the iconic features of the Halo series. And lastly, and probably obviously, try to prevent creating a perfect combination of perks. It really wouldn't matter how well thought out most of your perks would be if one or two of them are better than all the rest. In this situation, players are going to feel forced to use the better perks and sacrifice the feeling of uniqueness. Just try to think of perks as an extension of the armor customization idea that Halo 3 brought around. Players these days want to feel and look unique, and that's great, so let them build their own flavor of Spartan, just don't let them build a better Spartan. So finally, this brings us to armor abilities. To be completely honest, I don't have too much to say about armor abilities. When Reach first introduced them, there was a lot of anger about them, mostly about armor lock, but everyone knew armor lock was bad and it was taken out of most of the game types. And then 343i did a good job of keeping armor abilities interesting, but just like as in Reach, Halo 4 had its own failure of an armor ability, its own armor lock. That ability's name was Promethean Vision. For those of you that don't know, Promethean Vision was a wall hack. It essentially lets you see through walls, and you could see enemy players behind those walls. Now, this goes back to something I had stated earlier. You shouldn't let these perks or armor abilities trump a core gameplay mechanic. And in this case, it's completely trumping the motion sensor. It ended up not being that big of a deal in Halo 4 because nowadays you get game types that lock the armor abilities. You only get to pick certain loadouts. But then again, this brings up a pet peeve of mine that I've had with Halo ever since Reach. And that is, starting with Bungie and now 343i, they give you this new focus on building your own Spartan, playing the way you want to play with perks and making your armor look unique. But there's no sense of permanence with these customization options. Because depending on which playlist and matchmaking you choose, you may not even get the option to use the perks and armor abilities that you've grown accustomed to, that you've built your unique Spartan around. And I understand that restricting perks and armor abilities is good for competitive modes. But it seems like every other match I play in Halo 4, I'm having to adhere to a completely different set of rules. So what started out as this cool idea of creating a unique Spartan built around the way you want to play, then turns into this frustrating mess where you are forced into playing a cookie-cutter Spartan. But only sometimes. Usually it's based off of if someone voted that way or not. So I guess what I'm getting at is if you're going to force players to play a cookie-cutter Spartan for the sake of evening out the battlefield, making a competitive battlefield, which I am for. I am very much for esports. I love seeing Halo in MLG. But if you're going to force players to ditch their unique, custom-built Spartan, then only do it if they choose to. So make two different playlists. The standard Halo playlist, and then the MLG playlist. It worked in Halo 3, it should work now. And you have even more of a reason to do it now. So, that's all I've got for this episode. I think in our final episode, which will be episode 3, we're just going to talk about some closing points. I'm going to talk directly at 343 in the next episode about, well, I don't want to spoil it, but basically, thanks for watching. The next episode will be out much sooner than this episode was in relation to the first episode. For those of you who have been asking about why this episode was taking too long, I wanted to apologize to those of you. basically what happened was I spent a long time making the first video, and afterwards I made some silly little Call of Duty videos. And my Halo 4 or how to save Halo 5 video, episode 1, still has only about 500 views. Um, and the Call of Duty video that I posted recently has well over 1,000 now, and it's only been out for about a couple of days now. So I was demoralized, to say the least, after I spent 6-7 hours on a video, only to have way more, interaction with the community from a 15-minute video that took me 15 minutes to make, because it was literally just me streaming basically. But I kind of came back to the how to save Halo 5 video, and I saw a lot of comments saying that they really liked it, and some people had messaged me on Reddit and through YouTube, and you guys convinced me that it was worth doing this. So you'll notice that I haven't monetized this video, and I took off the monetization of the last video, not only because I think I'm not allowed to monetize Halo videos anymore. I've heard that over the grapevine, but also these videos are not about making money, not at all. These videos that I've been making are solely about helping the series that I have grown up with and that I have fallen in love with. I care about Halo, and I want Halo to succeed. But 343i kind of scared me recently, which is why I'm making these videos. So I hope that clears some stuff up, and I will see you shortly in episode 3, where I'm going to wrap all this up. Thank you very much for watching.